Hello everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I am Captain Logan.
And I am Vince.
Vince, what are we talking about today?
Today we are coming up with a topic that we came up with. It's, are old movies worth watching?
Yes.
Yes.
The end.
The end. They are. See, oh, there's a desk there now. I can't do this.
Oh, we're gonna have to switch where you sit when we shoot over here.
I'll just run over you from now on.
Freaking Captain Logan in his bat cave. Okay, so we're talking about old movies and why they're still worth watching. And that very question, of course, you came up with that. That very topic implies that there are a lot of people who think that old movies, just by the virtue of them not being brand spanking new, are somehow not worth their time. Why do you think people think that?
I think people are kind of obsessed with new, and I also think that people are kind of obsessed with the visuals. They really want that theater of attractions. And when they see a movie that's older that has a potentially not as amazing theatrical effects, they get a little, disenchanted with it.
Well, that's somewhat fair, isn't it? I mean, like, yeah. you have to get kind of used to it. They're accustomed. They've been trained to find a certain thing to be more believable because they've grown up with it, and it's harder for them to suspend their disbelief.
And also, if you go far enough back, you start getting into where film and stage acting have a lot more in common than they do nowadays. So
I wish we could just all agree that that's fun and not a problem.
Yeah,
that's just me. But
I've had these two conversations, and they bother me. One person said to me, "Oh, the acting in old movies is bad," and I went, "First of all, I think your syntax is off. Secondly,
it's the most blanket statement possible."
I was like, "You're not right about that." But and then I had another conversation where somebody said, "I don't watch old movies," and I'm like, "Well, there are old movies like movies in the 30s and 40s." Like, whoa, those are super old. And I went, "Well, what old movies were you talking about? Like, I don't know, 2006?" I went, "Oh my god, I'm gonna punch you!"
I gotta say that I am sympathetic to this to a degree, and I think it just requires education. I can completely understand where those ideas come from what I said earlier. I think that people are trained to find certain things more believable than other things. I think people are also trained to want to buy what just came out because naturally that's how the people who made them make money, is to get people to get used to wanting to always go to the theater to see whatever's new and wanting to always buy whatever just comes out, or at least rent it. So I get that. Where the education should come in is, and we talked about this so many times before, is how many of the things they think are new aren't even kind of new. How many of these things are just straight up either stolen stories from something else, or just straight up reboots, not reboots, remakes. We've talked so many times about movies that are remade, and the new version is, and this isn't always the case, of course. I thought True Grit was great, but there definitely are more often than not, by and large, remakes end up being shallow compared to the original. Where if it was a really character-driven story, now it's a giant action piece, or the heart of the piece is missing. Like they know how to make it look cinematic, and they know how to get people to go see it, but they don't know, but they're not understanding what made it worth watching in the first place. And so I really think that people would get a lot more out of stories that they think are brand new if they would go watch the original to see just what the difference is. I think that the perspective's off, We're told the newer is better because it just came out.
Yeah. Terrific examples. Day the Earth Stood Still and Dawn of the Dead. Two movies that are so sad with their remakes.
And sometimes a remake will be almost as good as the original, or still worth watching for another reason, but so often you almost need to see the original to appreciate why that is.
Yeah.
I heard from, I didn't watch this, but I heard from a lot of people that Total Recall was that way. That the remake of Total Recall was good, but that if you watch the original, you'd appreciate it more.
Yeah. And sometimes the source material makes things worthwhile, but
absolutely.
But I think we've talked about that in another GNN.
I think we covered that one.
So what was the actual topic we were going to cover? Is it worthwhile to watch old movies?
Yeah.
I think it is. And
I think it's a given that it is for you and I. And honestly, I think that if you're somebody like me and you who grew up watching a lot of movies, and I mean, like I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal or anything. I'm nothing like a movie buff, but I'm just saying that I almost think that, maybe this is wrong of me to say, tell me if you agree with this, I feel like you almost have to be a certain age to have that right now. Because honestly, when I look around at new stuff that's coming out, I don't get jazzed by a lot of new movies anymore. You know what I mean? Like some, but not to the degree that I did when I was a kid. I feel like a lot of the time I kind of look around and I feel like a lot of what's coming out has been done before, and I go, oh well, I could just go back and watch this other thing that did that better. But like, so some of this I think comes from lack of historical perspective, where like, you know, if you're 12, 13, 14 right now and your parents didn't show you some of those movies that you and I grew up with, you know, maybe they would have this different perspective where they would think that the new things would appear more new to them than they really are.
You know, maybe we just have this consumer culture right now. I mean, maybe we're just so super enchanted with what we have that's shiny and new and pretty that we just have to have the new movie that's coming out. And things that are not summer blockbusters are not worthwhile. Because, of course, those things make loads and loads of money, and other things make, you know, okay money. So, or terrible money. We're not going to discriminate against independent film here. So, but, you know, I suppose you can even look at things like independent film that just get the shaft because there are so many bigger movies that come out. Oh, this topic is depressing.
Yeah, it kind of is. Well, and you know, I feel a little bit cynical with this because, like I said, I don't understand that perspective because new things don't feel new to me half the time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying nothing's coming out that I don't like. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, like, more so now than a few years ago, for just for me, for my taste. I go to the movie when I go to the movie theater, and I don't go that often anymore. When I go to the movie theater, I'm disappointed more often than than I'm really impressed. I mean,
this is the feeling that I get when I leave most movies. Okay, there's things I liked, there's things I didn't, and I just don't get jazzed about things. It's and I don't want to. We're starting to sound kind of like a couple of fogies.
Really
here.
Old people? Yeah, yeah.
We're like, things aren't as good as they used to.
Well, 90s was extremely commercial. There are so many bad action movies from the 90s, and a lot of it. But again, wouldn't you? Well, I could go to a lot of other things. Wouldn't you agree that part of it is now, I liked old movies when I was a kid too. Let me just say that. But I mean, like again, some of it's perspective. When I was a kid, I probably thought that a lot of movies that aren't that good were better than they really are.
Well, yeah, I used to love Judge Dredd when I was younger.
Oh yeah, that's not a good movie.
No, it's not a good movie. Oh, it's bad. But I was gonna go somewhere with this. But I think, if nothing else, to sort of piggyback on something you were saying earlier, it's good to have historical perspective because you know where things are based on where they came from. You can watch, say, a werewolf movie nowadays and appreciate what has come before it. You know, there are certain themes and tropes that originated in older movies that are still affected today. There's a reason why a lot of things get inducted into film canon. It's not necessarily because they're good movies. It's because they are historically significant. So if you watch older movies, you find out why things are today as they were.
That's a great point, but I also wouldn't want...
You know what I mean?
But you know, people who are maybe younger than us or aren't, but just watch whatever's current. You know, have never really thought to go back and watch things any older than the age they are. I would also hesitate to say that the only reason to go back and watch old movies is for like a research project. Like, you know, I just don't feel like things lose their entertainment value just because they're older.
Yeah.
Some things don't hold up as well as other things because you might not necessarily understand some of the references and things like that. But a lot of movies really do hold up.
You know, I don't want to say that you have to watch older movies because, of course, it might not be for you. You just might not like it, and that's okay. But I don't think you should judge it before you really give it a fair shake. Because I feel like I'm doing an apology here, like, please.
Yeah, I'm not going to apologize at all. I actually don't agree with that. I think people really do need to watch some older movies.
I feel like people need to give it a fair shake.
And when I say older movies, I just mean you know, I mean, watch whatever it is you like. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is, if somebody hands you something and says you know, this movie will really make you think, I think you should give it a chance.
I would
agree. You know, I really think that.
And I'm not just saying older movies. Now, here's the good thing about old movies. Nowadays, movies get released, and we get lots of stuff released because, of course, it's a commercial. We live in a capitalist society. We're trying to make money, but so it's okay that we can look at the theaters and say there's not a lot of really great stuff being released. And it's not the same, or it's the same way in the past. There's not a lot of really great stuff that gets released. But
absolutely. That hasn't changed much.
Yeah. Over the decades, we really pare down and pick out what's good, or what's significant, or what's smart, or interesting, or fun. And we really look at the things that are worth holding on to. And, of course, I would say from the 80s and 90s and
there are definitely lost gems, though, where nobody talks about it and it's still totally boss. But
there are lost gems. There are movies that are held on to, not because they're good, but because people really want to hold on to them, and I'm not sure why.
Oh, that's true.
But
I agree with you.
And I feel like there's a lot of movies that are making it over into new generations because people want to pull them along, and not necessarily because they're good. And that will eventually die out. I feel like for even in the 80s, I feel like we're still paring down what's good and trying to hold on to it, or paring out what's bad and trying to hold on to what's good. So I do feel that there is a process, but there is a reason.
It's a process that takes time, absolutely. Yeah. That's why I don't understand anybody that says, well, that's 5-6 years old. I'm sorry, dude, but 2006 ain't that long ago for me.
Yeah, the movie's not even old enough to smoke yet.
and again, part of that is still perspective. I know I keep saying that, but I mean, like, you know, 6 years ago is a long time ago if you're 18. If you're 30, it's not that long ago.
You know, it bothers me when I talk to people around about my age or older than me that say that stuff to me. It just bothers me.
Ooh, I don't understand that.
Like, if you're 15, you're like, that movie was 6 years ago. I'm like, whatever. You were 8, 9. I'm bad at math.
I was shocked and dismayed when you told me that you've talked to multiple people that will say, I don't like to watch anything older than a couple of years, because most of the people I know that really like to watch movies have that movie that they watch all the time. Yeah. You know, you know, for me, it's something like The Matrix. I mean, like, I watch that movie at least a couple times a year, you know, because I really love it.
Yeah. Ghostbusters and Blues Brothers.
Yeah, and it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter how old those movies get. Yeah, you know, okay. When I'm 50, I'll still be watching The Matrix. You know,
when I'm 80, I'll still be watching Ghostbusters. In fact, when I turn 80, I will probably watch Blues Brothers in honor of it coming out in 1980.
So I don't know. Where anywhere else we should go with this?
You know, that's the hard thing. It's because I feel like it's sort of a foregone conclusion that you should watch it. But trying to come up with reasons for a person to watch it is, I just feel like it expands the mind. I feel like if you're only watching one type of thing that comes out in a particular time frame, you're losing out on expanding yourself and trying to find a little bit of enlightenment. You know, I still feel that there is a little bit of a legitimacy issue with film, and that might even be a completely separate topic. I feel like I feel like the study of film is still extremely young.
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I mean,
it is.
We are refining the study of literature, and people just accept that. But that even literature had a point. All literature, no. We're refining the study of the novel. But even the novel had a point where it was new, and people thought that it wasn't quite as legitimate of an art form. So I do feel like watching older film will give you an understanding of where things were, where things are going, and how it should be studied.
But I also think that films that hold up and don't require you to have lived in the year that they came out, because there are definitely movies like this. You know, there are certainly a lot of comedies, especially like this, that are you know so much about the references that if you weren't alive at that time or didn't have parents that you paid attention to constantly that lived at the time, and so you know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? That you won't understand them. But I don't think that that if a movie is old enough, you necessarily have to think of it as an old film. I think think that a lot of things are just a good movie, and that it shouldn't matter when it came out. How many times have you sat down and watched a movie where you didn't look at the year it came out before you popped it in, and you weren't even sure what decade it was? I've definitely had this.
I like to guess at it.
And then and then when you look it up and you're surprised because it's actually older than you thought it was. That's a fun experience. So I'm just saying. I mean, like, I think that like generally for the question, yes, of course, people should watch older movies. But I also don't think that we have to think of them in those terms all the time.
Yeah, you know, I feel like this logic might be a little hard to defeat. If you can make a period piece today that is worth watching, why can't you watch an older movie that's set in a different period?
That's a good point. And you know, honestly, it's not like the way we shoot film has changed all that much.
Yeah, I mean,
you know? It has and it hasn't.
The only thing that I can really figure is that movies are made for the audience that are going to watch it. So you can make a movie in the 60s, and there's going to be a completely different audience for that. There's going to be a completely different set of tastes. Same can be said for roughly any decade.
But that doesn't mean that there aren't movies from the 60s that transcend time.
Exactly.
You know, Star Wars in the late 70s transcends time. It doesn't feel like a 70s movie.
Yeah, Bonnie and Clyde doesn't feel like a 60s movie. But it's definitely, it was made in the 60s. Or at least I'm pretty sure it was. Correct me!
No, it was. I'm almost positive it was.
But there's a lot of great stuff that came out prior to 2006.
You know, and then you got things like Back to the Future that's like a consummate 80s movie, but somehow or rather you know, maybe it's because it's a time travel film, so you can look at it like a period piece. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was made in the 80s, but all you have to do is say, okay, well, the present for this film is 1985, but I don't have to have lived in 1985 to appreciate it because it's a time travel film, so I can look at it like a period piece.
A lot of us still have that idealized version of the 50s.
Yeah, exactly, because that movie's 50s doesn't look like the actual 50s.
It looks like what we think the 50s looks like.
Exactly.
Oh, look, poodle skirts.
That's what's fun about it. Well, and then the Wild West in the third movie, especially, it looks like movies from that time, not the actual time.
Yeah.
Or not movies from that time. Movies
about that time.
Movies about that time made earlier. Well, anyway.
I like it.
Well, hey, tell us what you think about this. Do you yourself? I'd love to hear from people. Do you yourself ever have a problem with watching a movie just because it's old? Now, I can see people that go, well, I don't like to watch a movie that's too old. That's a certain age. I still have a huge appreciation for silent films. I took a silent film class once, and I watched some of those, and some of them kind of went over my head. You know, I just didn't really understand what they were doing until somebody had to explain it to me, because it was almost 100 years old. You know what I mean? But anyway, so like I can kind of get that. But like, is there anybody who just they have to watch what's current, and if it gets 5-6 years old, they don't want to watch it anymore? I'd love to know if somebody watching right now has that. Anyway, leave your comments. Tell us what you think about this topic, and also if there's something you'd like us to talk about in the future video, leave that in the comments as well. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, reminding you to support your local comic book store or movie rental place that has old movies.
See you later.
I feel better, thank you.
No problem.